now listening to We Talk Entertainment.
Let's get high. Let's get high. Let's get high.
And Talk Entertainment. Share and subscribe.
What's going on, everybody? It is Hollow, and welcome to Weed Talk Entertainment, solo episode number 2. I'm your host, Hollow, and today we're going to discuss the Batman. Now, I can remember back in 2018 all the talk that Ben Affleck was going to direct and star in a standalone Batman movie, and then he no longer became interested in directing it. That led to Matt Reeves coming in. Matt Reeves didn't want to do a Batfleck film, he wanted to do his own thing, and the rest of that is history. Fast forward to May 2019, and outlets began to pour in with the news that Robert Pattinson had finalized the deal to be the Batman in Matt Reeves' film. This felt a little weird to me, I'm not going to lie, but after thinking about it for some time, it made perfect sense. Robert Pattinson has pushed himself beyond the Twilight Gates and has proven himself to be an incredible actor. In fact, he's become one of my favorite actors, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. When you look at his indie films like Good Time, The Lighthouse, and Devil All the Time, he's done pretty well for himself and is pretty much on the top of the list for most sought-after actors to work with. You can see how good of an actor he is and why it made sense that he was cast as the Batman. When news broke out that it would be a detective noir story, I thought, finally, we are going to see the world's greatest detective. Sure, Keaton, Kilmer, Bale, and Affleck did some detective work, but none of them feel like they deserve the title of world's greatest detective. Here with the Batman, we're getting a very Seven-inspired film that is perfect for that kind of detective story. The GCPD are obviously having issues with the Riddler. Speaking of the Riddler, I honestly had no idea who Paul Dano was at first. I wasn't familiar with anything he had done, and when I looked up his filmography, there was nothing that I had seen him in. But apparently Dano is an amazing actor and has been in some amazing films. Films I'm sure I will see at some point in my life. But for now, I will let the Riddler be my first true introduction to the actor, and man, let me tell you what, I love it. I love the Zodiac Killer meets Jigsaw vibe they're going with. I think it's pretty effective and is going to scare people, while at the same time probably making them uncomfortable. When the first official look at Robert Pattinson as the Batman dropped, I gotta admit, I wasn't sold on the suit at first. I was hoping we were past the armored look for Batman because honestly, Batman does not need to wear armor all the time. Some Kevlar hidden behind his fabric suit for extra protection during close encounters, but beyond that, he should be a phantom. I equate it almost to Michael Myers in how he's the Shape. He just moves swiftly and fluid like smoke. The same should be for Batman as well, but of course that's just opinion. When I saw the bat insignia on his suit, I noticed it looked like a gun that had been split in half, and I thought, hey, it would be cool if somehow Bruce ended up with the gun Joe Chill used to kill his parents. Sort of like a poetic, the thing that damaged me will now be used as something that protects me. The teaser was filtered in red, giving many people Daredevil vibes, and I'll admit, I definitely was one who thought that. But after some time, the suit grew on me. Talk started circulating that this would be sort of a builds everything himself from scratch sort of Batman. The suit made sense and was the final push I needed to not only be behind his suit, but behind his Batmobile as well. Speaking of which, let's talk about his Batmobile. It looks like a very dystopian and battle-ready muscle car. I know some people don't like that it looks like a regular car that anyone can take off the streets and turn into a Batmobile, but honestly, that's why I love it. I'm someone who prefers the more basic car model approach to the Batmobile versus an overblown tank. I think there's many hidden futures we have yet to see from the Batmobile. Now, when Zoe Kravitz was cast as Catwoman, I didn't have much thought of it. Zoe is not a bad actress, but there hasn't really been a role from her that I've been crazy about or that I feel has defined her, and I feel Catwoman could be that role. Michelle Pfeiffer is still my favorite Catwoman. Sure, she wasn't really a cat burglar, which Catwoman is known for being, but man, the suit alone still remains in the minds of many. Speaking of suits, when we got a first look at Zoe as Catwoman, I noticed they definitely went for a grounded and realistic approach to a quote-unquote cat burglar. Dressed in a leather suit with a ski mask that's fashioned to be a cat cowl, my first initial reaction was, wow, they're really trying to make it feel noir and grounded. Even more grounded than Christian Bale's Batman was, but still with a sense of fantasy behind it. We were soon to find out that actor John Turturro would play Carmen Falcone, and after all the talks of this film being grounded in the way that Year One is, it makes perfect sense. We don't know much of what his role is, but I imagine it will be pretty small. Colin Farrell is another actor who joined the cast as the Penguin, and let me tell you, he looks completely unrecognizable in the role. He gives off a very Richard Nixon Republican type of vibe. As we know, he has a very small role in this film, so who knows? Maybe we'll see him return for the sequel. Now we move on to Jeffrey Wright as James Gordon. Wright is another actor I wasn't too familiar with beyond remembering that he was the crazy Dominican dude in the movie Shaft. I hadn't seen any of his recent work, but upon seeing him in trailers and photos, I instantly fell in love. I feel this is going to be a Gordon who probably struggles with a lot of gray areas in life. And finally, Andy Serkis as Alfred. Personally, I think this is a great choice, and it seems like there will be an emotional struggle between him and Bruce. So to give sort of a breakdown of this film, Bruce is in his second year as the Batman. Gotham has gone to hell from all the corruption, and the Riddler is targeting the elite in Gotham and taking them out one by one. Meanwhile, the GCPD, or more like Gordon, gets Batman involved because they literally can't figure out who's doing it, and Batman gets sent in to solve the riddles and find out who's behind it. Meanwhile, Batman himself is being given riddles and personal messages. Apparently, he's targeting Bruce, informing him that he is indirectly a part of the corruption thanks to his parents, or at least that's what the trailers seem to allude to. It's up to Batman to solve everything and stop the Riddler from unleashing his ultimate plan yet, which is to flood Gotham. Personally, I love that concept, as it's an even more realistic and close-to-home threat than we've previously seen in a Batman film, and hey, a flooded Gotham being frozen over by Mr. Freeze would make for a pretty cool sequel follow-up. Anyways, guys, I can't wait for this movie. March is right around the corner, and I think this is going to be a great film. And hey, who knows? Maybe Pattinson will nudge Keaton in my list for the #1 spot. Once again, guys, this is Hollow, and this has been another solo edition of Weed Talk Entertainment. Catch you guys next time.